Board of Commission meeting is called to order at 6 p.m. Will Commissioner Terry Lister lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance?
I will, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. Please rise and pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for being here with us. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings bestowed on our city. We thank you for your love and for your grace. For none of us are perfect. That is saved for only you. So as we continue through this life, we ask that you guide us with your wisdom and your grace. We pray that each passing day brings us closer to you. For as you know, Lord, my mother's brother, Uncle Bob, came home to you today. May his days be filled with rejoicing with you. All these things we ask in your name. Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the acting clerk, city clerk, please read the roll?
Mayor Black,
Here.
Vice Mayor Douthert, present. Commissioner Lister,
Here.
Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Oakley.
Here. All right, there are no minutes to approve this evening. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, if I may just interrupt for 1 second. I know that everybody on this dais received this email from the Herbert Law Group this week asking for more time for Mr. Crawford's attorney. If I may, the letter said, I'm asking to be added to the agenda for May 9th to discuss the pending allegations and subsequent motion and resolution regarding my client, Shane Crawford. I am requesting the additional time to be added to the agenda directly so that I am not limited to the minutes, 3 minutes at public speaking. And that being said, Madam Mayor, I also received a email, which you didn't receive, none of the commissioners did, and I will give it to the acting city clerk after this meeting, that states from the past mayor of St. Pete Beach that the litigation has cost them over $3 million. And we have a lawyer that wants to come in front of us and speak for free. It's not going to cost us anything, and we're not going to give him that courtesy. I ask that you add him to the agenda and give him the allotted times that he needs to discuss this.
I would second that motion.
All right, we have a second and a first. Will the acting city clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Black,
No.
Mayor Douthert, or Vice Mayor Douthert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lister,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley.
No.
So Mayor, if I can just jump in here, then my suggestion is that you add that agenda item under new business. And obviously, you've got 7 other items under new business. And you could place that in any order that you would like to, if you're going to add it to new business based upon the motion that was just made.
Madam Mayor, I'll leave that at your discretion.
All right, let's put it as number 1 because I would ask the commission that we move up the approval of the 2016 Comprehensive Annual Finance Report to after the proclamation. He has to be moved up. So we can put him at number 1.
I have no issue with that.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
So you need a motion, Mayor, to then move new business item number 1 right after proclamations and adding a new agenda item, and that would be presentation by Mr. Hebert under new business.
I so move, Madam Mayor.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. City clerk, please read the roll.
Vice Mayor Douthert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lister,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. All right, next, well, we didn't finish the approval of the agenda. So I would like a motion.
Yeah, that was the motion that was just made.
Oh,
Yeah, with those changes.
oh, we're including it all?
Yep.
I see, okay. All right, at this time, I would like to ask the Coast Guard Auxiliary to join me at the podium for the National Boating Week proclamation. Are you here? Is there anyone here? Oh, all right. Well, I was told somebody was here, so we'll go forward then. All right, well, the floor is now open for public comment relating to any city business that is not on the agenda. The time is limited to 3 minutes. Before you get started, I just want to ask everyone to please be respectful, to be civil. Please no shout-outs, call-outs, booing, yelling, and speaking out of turn. And just a reminder, when you're at the podium, please state your full name, your home address, speak into the mic. And this is not a time for question and answers with the commission. It is public comment.
Okay, Mayor, before we get started, we had moved up approval of the 2016 Comprehensive Annual Finance Report to just before public comment. And so Mr. Hauser is in the back of the room. He should make that presentation before public comment.
I apologize. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you have to, John. Hold it close to your mouth where you can't hear.
Here, can you hear me now? Yes. My name is John Hauser. I'm with the partner with the firm of Wells, Hauser, and Schatzel, the independent auditors for the city of Madeira Beach. Included in your agenda packet, there are 2 items related to the audit. The first is what we call a required communication. This letter contains items that we're required to communicate to you at the completion of the audit. The items include new accounting policies or new accounting standards. The city implemented or no new accounting policies or standards during the year. The previous fiscal year, you did implement GASB 68, which now reflects the Florida Retirement System pension liability and deferred inflows and outflows, but there were no new accounting policies this year, and none of the existing policies were changed. Accounting estimates, the most significant estimate the city has is the useful lives of your capital assets. That is then used to calculate depreciation on these assets and gets reflected as an expense in the enterprise funds, as well as the government-wide statements for the governmental funds. Any difficulties encountered during the audit? We encountered no difficulties. We were provided all the information we requested, and all our inquiries were promptly responded to reasonably. We did have 2 journal entries that we proposed and management agreed with, and these related to recognizing adjustments to that Florida Retirement System pension liability and the enterprise funds in the governmental fund financial statements. We had no disagreements with management, and as I said, all the journal entries we proposed were agreed to and posted. The remainder of our reports are included in the bound CAFR, which is the 103-page document that you have been provided in your agenda packets. The first report is our independent auditor's report. It starts on page 8. We've audited the financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2016. It's management's responsibility to prepare and present fairly these financial statements in accordance with GAAP, and it's our responsibility to audit those financial statements. So based on our audit procedures, we've concluded that the audit evidence we obtained is sufficient and appropriate in order for us to express an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements that are included in the comprehensive annual financial report. In the very back of the report, there are other, starting on page 89, there's a report on internal control and compliance. We noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and we noted no instances of non-compliance as it pertained to grants, contracts, and agreements. The independent auditor's management letter is required by the Auditor General of the state of Florida. In this letter is where we would report findings or recommendations. There were no prior year findings to respond to, and there are no current year recommendations. The annual financial report that gets submitted to the State of Florida Department of Financial Services, we've agreed that report to the CAFR, and it's going to be submitted by the city. Then, whether or not the city was in a state of financial emergency, we determined the city did not meet any of the criteria to be deemed in a state of financial emergency. There are two other reports, one on investments, and the city was in compliance with its investment policy as well as the Florida statutes, and a report on the Deepwater Horizon oil spill funds, that those funds are being accounted for as far as the expenditure and the unexpended portion of those. What I'd like to do is just focus on one statement in this 103-page document, and it's called the Statement of Net Position, or balance sheet, if you will. It begins on page 22. Overall, the total assets and deferred outflows of the city were about $53.5 million. That's an increase of about $3 million or 6% over the prior year. Primarily increases were in the capital assets as well as the pension-related deferred outflows. Capital assets increased about $2 million. The pension-related items increased about $1 million. The total liabilities and deferred inflows were $17.4 million, and that's an increase of 1.2 or 7% over the prior year. Increases, there was debt that was issued to acquire a new fire safety vehicle, $725,000, and then net of the debt service payments on your existing debt of $587 was a net increase in debt of around $138,000. Your accounts payable and accrued expenses increased about $180,000, and the pension-related items increased about $871,000. Well, the assets minus the liabilities is your net position. That increased to a little over $36 million, about a $1.8 million increase or 5% over the prior year. And those increases really were in the capital assets, went up about $5 million. Restricted net position went up about $500,000, and your unrestricted net position decreased about 3.3. And that's because you're adding these assets, these capital assets. Overall, the unrestricted net position, there's about 8 months on hand as far as related to the expenditures on a monthly basis. The city does have a fund balance policy, and it has two areas that requires, the first area is a minimum unassigned fund balance in the governmental funds equal to 2 months of budgeted expenditures. That minimum amount would be $1,059,000, and the actual unassigned fund balance at 9/30/16 was about $5.5 million, so you're far and above the minimum that you require to maintain. The city also shall provide for an emergency storm response reserve equal to 1/3 of the budgeted expenditures, and that amount would equate to about $2.1 million. And now there's actual amount of the reserve reflected in the statements is a little over 2,118,000, so you're in compliance with your fund balance policy for the September 30, 16 year end. It's a pretty large document, a lot of good information in there. Once again, I'd like to thank management and the city staff for their assistance during the audit. And if anyone has any questions, I'll try to address them now. Thank you.
I don't have any questions for Mr. Hauser, Madam Mayor, but I just have a statement that Vince was dizzying when he give us our monthly reports every month to show where the city's going. But I just want to highlight that, these are numbers, and a lot of people don't get excited about numbers, but they do get excited about assets. The city of Madeira Beach has a lot of assets, and the assets in 2011 were $6,700,000. The assets today, 5 years after that, it's $20,800,000. The city's doing really well in the past 5 years. Thank you.
Any other comments?
will be submitted to the GFOA for the award of the certificate of achievement, and that's due by May 31st. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve the report.
And I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. The city clerk, please read the roll, call the roll.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Douthat?
Yes.
All right, now we will continue with the public comment. Yes.
Everybody, Paul Ruffridge, hear that? One foot? Paul Ruffridge, 15208 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach, 33708. First, I wanted to congratulate the 3 new commissioners on their election victory. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I look into numbers a little bit, and I believe the 3 of you won with just under 800 votes. And based on that, if I were to state that a different way, there was between 75 and 85% of the residents that did not vote for you. So I would ask that any changes that are being made to be made thoughtful and transparently. Secondly, I read in the paper about 3 weeks ago that Mayor Black had no intentions of any bloodletting at City Hall, that she was in support of the current administration and wanted to move forward. When I was at the meeting Thursday, it was clear that there was something being done to remove those folks for reasons that in the private sector we would need more justification for removal, but I understand where we're at. I also understand there were some names released at that time to replace them. One of them was a former city manager. I guess I would ask one question as far as transparency goes. Why is he the former city mayor? Or city manager, excuse me. And finally, I witnessed some videos over the weekend from the King of the Beach weekend. They were disturbing to me, but what I would say if they were authentic, that I'm not comfortable having council members represent myself that act that way in public. Thank you.
Pam Cohen, 567 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. I've never felt so compelled to speak on behalf of this city and its citizens as I've had since this past election. I'm embarrassed by how this newly elected commission is performing. I've been watching, listening, and been engaged in this city for quite some time, and have mostly felt as though my voice and thoughts were heard and respected until last Thursday. I'd like to ask you, Mayor Black, since I don't pretend to like the way that you're running your first attempt at public office, if this is any indication of how you would go forward with your team. And if so, then you have much work to do to consent to my respect and anyone else in this city. I hope you listen to myself and the rest of the city, even if it's not something you appreciate hearing, and that you're willing to engage in open lines of communication and transparent conversations. Your resolution, which I doubt was written by yourself, shows how you do not understand the rules of our charter. You do not follow Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, and in your resolution, you said Mr. Crawford has created chaos, lied and undermined this commission. The only chaos I have seen is the chaos that was started on April 11th, when this newly elected officials were sworn in. Mr. Crawford offered to help ease the tensions, and you have managed to only heighten those tensions, which are now on the verge of creating hostility. He walked you through meetings when you didn't understand the charter or when or how to make a motion. To paraphrase him, you are the coach and I'm the quarterback. Give me the playbook and the play to run. So I'm not sure how that can be construed as undermining. When I heard the names of people you were willing to place in very important roles in our city, I said, why would she choose Jim Madden, and how would she even know that name? She didn't live here then. It didn't take long to realize that someone was behind your statement, and that is exactly why you said we. You're willing to take a risk on someone you knew nothing about versus collaborating with Shane Crawford. You sat face to face with him, promised his job was not in jeopardy. You were even quoted, "Cleaning house is not my agenda." John Dothert even said, "Shane's doing a good job. He's paid to do what he's doing, so why get rid of him?" You also ran a commission on the platform of fiscal responsibility and concern about the debt. I'm concerned about the debt now that will be created by the numerous lawsuits that I'm sure are pouring in. And now that the legal fund is depleted, I don't wish to see my hard-earned tax dollars spent on covering the deficit your chaos will now create. One more time, I ask you, Mayor Black, for the sake of your office, this city, and all of its citizens, please be willing to do the right thing for Madeira Beach. And not just the few that are telling you what to do, but for all 4,200 citizens. Thank you.
John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. The first thing I wanted to touch on is that we were told that by the mayor that she didn't want anyone working together as a team, as in our city manager and city clerk. I'd like to point out that the mayor's husband is now on the payroll for Madeira Beach. Something else I'd like to point out, although they're fighting this new development, as much as this developer has bent over backwards and cut back on the size of this project, he wanted to go up to leave some green area for parks for the citizens. If he lowers this development, we'll have a concrete wall down Gulf Boulevard, and he'll go up on the density. I think he will. I don't know that for a fact. But the man's got to be allowed to make some money on his investment. And he has been over backwards. It's time for you to compromise. I might point out that Mayor Black and Commissioner Dothert's condo building is higher than the new development. So, with all that being said, we've got a new city hall. We've got a new park. We've got a new fire department. It's all beautiful. And by the way, thank you, Mr. Carnes, for donating $1.2 million to that. Now we've got all this, we need to pay for it. I'd like to know where the revenue is coming from to do that. We need the development. Commissioner Oakley, you ran on a platform that one of the things you were going to do was to fix the water problem on 140th and Island Drive. I live on Normandy Road. They redid that road a couple of years ago. Cost $1 million for that one street, and they didn't have to raise it. The problem is this is a barrier island. That's a low area. I estimate it'll cost $5 million to do 140th. Commissioner Dothert, you ran, one of the things you said you were running on was to bury the utilities on Gulf Boulevard. Another $2 million. We need this development to help pay for these things. Where are you coming up with this money? We need the development. Where are you coming up with it?
Mayor,
As I said, this is not a question and answer period.
I knew you wouldn't have an answer. Also, you said that you picked Mr. Madden and you didn't know there was a problem with him. In fact, I spoke with you before the election about who you were running with, and I spoke to you
Point of order,
about
Madam Mayor.
Mr.
I'm
Madden.
sorry, 3 minutes. I'm sorry, 3 minutes.
Okay. But I spoke to you about Mr. Madden before the election. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Amodio, and this is my wife, Sandra Kibler, daughter of Patricia Shantz. Since Pat's death in January, there have been numerous rumor and innuendo, false statements, and written items questioning our family business, relationship with Shane Crawford, and alleged misdeeds by Mr. Crawford. It appears that we are being used in an underhanded effort to discredit and destroy Mr. Crawford's reputation. We are here now to honor Sandra's mother and to make clear that Mr. Crawford's involvement with Pat's estate was requested by Sandra and Pat, witnessed by me, and at no time has Shane requested or been promised any compensation for performance of those responsibilities. Look at Sandra. During the last 2 years, she has suffered at least 5 near-death events, and only now has been able to travel from our part-time home in North Carolina to finally be able to deal with her mother's passing. Sandra wished to come here sooner, but all the drama and foolishness created by certain persons in your community has caused her excessive stress that has required continuous monitoring by her medical team. If anyone should dare to challenge our veracity or Sandra's condition, come forward now and test her. Be also advised that any actions you contemplate regarding Mr. Crawford's relationship with the city of Madeira Beach must not in any way be influenced by or conditioned upon any of the BS shouted about regarding his business with Pat Shantz's estate. We will welcome the opportunity to pursue and prosecute anyone who persists in continued attacks and sullying upon our family, Mr. Crawford, and particularly the memory of Patricia Shantz, who gave so much of herself to this community. I will repeat, Mr. Crawford has thus far carefully abided by and followed the wishes and instructions given him by Pat Shantz regarding her business and his estate. We have full confidence in his continued honorable performance. Any questions that may be raised regarding our family business that should be private must be addressed to Sandra and me. Thank you.
You'll be next.
Stephen Rayo, 557 Crystal Drive, Madeira Beach. Commissioner Lister gave forth with some fascinating figures, some wonderful figures concerning the assets of our city. In the last 5 years, he said, we almost doubled the value of the assets in this town. To do this in such a small community can only be attributed to the administration under which it occurred. I was proud, and am still proud, of that administration. Some of you ran on a lot of propaganda which stated that the administration was wasteful, was not living up to its creed as a governing body, was only interested in certain people. and not the welfare of the community at large. And this propaganda obviously put you in the positions that you're in right now because, as I see it, none of it was true. And now we sit with a commission that looks like it's going to be a 3-2 commission. And where are we going to go with it? Are we going to go forward and make this prosperous little community more prosperous, more attractive to resettlement of people from the north or elsewhere? Are we going to make it a laughing stock, which so far, from what I've heard and seen, is happening? With those numbers, we can certainly see why we needed a new administration. Well, here we are. And at least one of you, I think, should have the good sense to resign. At least one. I don't know John very well. I don't know John at all. And Mayor, you're just a name and a face so far to me. I had no personal interaction with you prior. But former commissioner that acts
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
and
Point of order.
reports herself.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
No.
Ann Rasmussen. I reside at 567 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. I've lived here for 20 years and also currently serve on the Planning Commission and have since 2013. I've seen this town go from the slums of the beaches to a wannabe place for locals and tourists alike. Only in the past 6 years, since Shane Crawford became our city manager and had the backbone to turn this city around, I've been proud to call this place home. But since our newly elected officials took office, I'm embarrassed to say that, I live here. Our newly elected mayor and 2 newly elected commissioners have stepped in here and destroyed what Mr. Crawford and so many others have worked so hard to create, a beautiful Class Act city and community. I need to stress the word community because it has become a place where all residents and non-residents, young and old, can come for various types of events, and our past officials have been present to greet them and accommodate them. What I don't understand is how you 3 newly elected people, especially Nancy Oakley, thinks that she has the upstanding character to represent our city and has the right,
Back on character,
after
point of
only
order.
1 month in office, to fire Shane Crawford and his wife, Cheryl Crawford, who have busted their butts to turn the city around. None of you even tried to work with either one of them. Maggie Black, after hearing that you've lived here for only 6 years, just blows my mind. You don't even know what a crime and drug haven this town was prior to your arrival. But very shortly after your move here, it was all cleaned up by the strong work of our previous city officials, not you. But let me just get back to what I was trying to say last Thursday night. Nancy Oakley's passed, and there are public records.
Point of order.
There are public records to back the things that I have to say. She had unwanted advances towards Shane.
Point of order.
Physical threats towards Cheryl Rohde. She had petty theft charges.
This is a personal affront. It is a
misdemeanor.
point of order.
She had 3 years ago, she was written up several times by the city of Clearwater.
Please sit
for her
down.
poor work performance.
Sit
And was
down.
suspended without pay for 1 day. These are facts that the
Mr.
public
Attorney,
need to
can
know.
you give me some help here?
And because of these facts, we as a city need to
And-
unite and request
And-
that Nancy Oakley be recalled.
And you need to direct your, Mayor, if I can just jump in here, everyone in the audience, if you could just direct your comments to the commission as a whole instead of singling out individual commissioners, it would be helpful to keep the meeting moving along. I don't think it's appropriate to be singling out individual commissioners, and I'd ask your indulgence in doing that. If you can just direct them to the commission as a whole, we can move this along much quicker. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Am I heard?
It's on.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Debbie Weinstein. I live at
Can you
441,
hold it up to your
129th Avenue in Madeira Beach. I'd like to make 3 statements, okay? The first thing, there was a speaker previously who had indicated that we had all these wonderful assets. I don't know who it was, but all the recreation department, everything that we've done in the last 4 or 5 years. I'd like to remind everybody, as I remember it, we borrowed $15 million plus $5 million interest to get all those things. So it hasn't been done just, by going into the piggy bank. The second comment that I'd like to make is in past years, incoming commissions have had the option of including the Citizens Forum, which is now called the public comment, and the invocation at commission meetings. I remember many times in the past, well, maybe not many, but several, that both portions were missing from the agenda for months and then reappeared as time went on. To substitute a citizens forum, for instance, if a commissioner wanted to, he or she could meet with citizens at City Hall, Archbald, Teardrop Park, within the city. The meeting time and place would be announced by the individual commissioner at a commission meeting or noticed on a citywide notice board. The commissioner could then bring the citizens' comments and issues to a workshop meeting on behalf of the citizen. I asked the commission to add these 2 items, the citizens forum and the invocation, dispensing of both, to your workshop meeting when you discuss the Board of Commissioners handbook, rules, and policies. And I do this because the citizens forum and the public comments portion is being abused and used as a heckling stand or a grandstand by many people who do not live in the city, but also perhaps by many people who do not even have business interests here. They're just called as friends, and I've seen this in the past, and we all have. They just want to heckle you, okay? I know it's an open meeting, but their business is business. The heckling takes away from the real business that you've got to handle and take care of the city. Okay, and by having all this distraction before, that's very difficult. Number 2, regards to the invocation. One commissioner has been giving the invocation for the last 4 or 5 years, and it is the same commissioner who's shown intense disrespect for fellow commissioners and the public in his statements and actions at the April 11th and May 4th commission meeting.
Point of order.
I do not think,
Point of order.
I've not named anybody.
Point of
but
order,
that's-
Maggie.
Point of order.
I do not think the invocation, well, y'all know who it was anyway, so that's good, I guess. But I do not think the invocation has a place of at commission meetings, and I would appreciate y'all just considering that. Thank you.
Kathy Beeran, 225 Boca Ciega Drive. I'm going to talk about Nancy. Don't bang it. I'm not doing anything nasty here. I am talking about our Commissioner Nancy. She has put herself on the line. I'm sure Nancy knows what she can do and what she can't do. And she has put herself forward to help this town when we had a problem. And the problem is our previous commission didn't listen to us. Nothing. We spoke, we stood here, we took elections, we took anything we could do. They smiled, and we walked away. Nothing happened, okay? So we have tried to do something better. We have looked for, and You guys are wonderful because I know you don't have experience. I know you're under the gun. And I think Nancy is especially under the gun. She knows. We all know. But that we need help. And I want to admire that she stood up. She knew it was going to be on the line. And I just want to thank her for putting herself forward. And if anybody else could have done better, how much can you be brave? How much can you put yourself on the line, guys, for your city and be exposed and read about and talked about? So before you boo this woman and keep talking about her, give her a shot, okay? And really, and that is, give her a shot. Maybe she'll pass it. I mean it. But I just want you to know thank you. And I think it's hard. And, you know, if the other commission listened to us, you wouldn't be here. They would be here. And they didn't listen to us. And thank you for listening to us. And thank you.
Steve Kochik, 15301 2nd Street East, Madeira Beach. I had spoke last time to the commissioners and all, and I know the people that have been here. The truth is really what makes your decisions. When you get packets that are from the staff and all, there's going to be truthful information there that can be proven 10 times over that the decision you make, if you base it upon the information that you get, more than likely everything's going to go well. During the election, there was a lot of information that was given out. A lot of it had to do with the financial situation of the city. We just had our financial report, which to me sounded glowing. Once again, the city is in great shape. The city can and will be able to pay its debts in a timely manner without having to raise taxes or anything else. What surprised me is that none of the new commissioners had a question for that man about the things that you were promoting while you were running for office. Why didn't you ask him the questions that were out and about the financial instability of the city? This was the perfect time to ask whether that was true. That's all I ask of you. Find out the truth of what's going on. If you're going to make decisions for all the people, you have people that will support you in the drop of a hat, but we want to deal with the truth. If you're not sure about something, give a call to a couple of people, not only to one side of the city. Give me a call. I'll be glad to answer your questions, but not answer them. I will show you the answers. I will show you how to find the answers for yourself so you can determine the truth for yourself. That is the key to good government, is the truth. And that's all that I've asked of all of you, is just make your decisions with the truth so that when you speak the truth, and you won't hear jeering, you won't hear anything. People will accept it. And what will happen is, once again, when you have a meeting, this hall will be empty because people will trust that the decisions being made are being made in their best interest. I really hope that we can work together, and I hope that I get a phone call and just to test me, say, Steve, I'm going to call you on this. Here's the question that I have. Can you prove whether this is right or wrong? Was this is the truth or a lie? Give me a shot. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Ginger Tolliver, 814 Bay Point Drive, Madeira Beach. I have to be honest with all of you. For the first time in the 30 years that I have lived here, I am embarrassed to say that I live in Madeira Beach. We are the laughing stock of the whole area. And I'm sorry, shoot me down, but I called you last week, Maggie, on the phone and asked you to please think carefully about someone who was elected with you. I said, after seeing that video, you can, point of order.
Personal attack, point of order.
Oh, baloney. I don't care about personal attack.
City attorney.
I saw it, everybody saw it, but I asked your husband if you didn't see her stumble.
City attorney.
Almost fall in my lap.
Ms. Tolliver.
Came and asked to be appointed to the seat that the commission respectfully gave to Ingrid. She fell in my lap. I don't know what was worse.
Ms. Tolliver.
Yeah, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know what was worse, your smell of your alcohol and
Ms.
your breath
Tolliver.
or your body.
If you don't stop, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Do. I don't care.
Thank you.
Because this is a disgrace to people in an impossible solution because you're the deciding vote. Grow up, Maggie, and think. Wouldn't you rather be on a winning side than a losing side? A side with a drunk?
Anyone else? All right, at this time, we're going to,
Mayor, there's one more person.
I'm sorry.
Tom Edwards, protected address, District 1. I've been a resident here for 37 years, in municipal government for 42 years, and have watched carefully the proceedings. You know, this started about a year and a half ago when Shane either sought legal advice or received the commission's approval at that time to go ahead and start dating his executive assistant. And I think it was bad advice. I think the commissioner should not have done it. You see it all the time in corporate work where a higher-up person goes ahead and starts dating a subordinate, and it causes problems. There was no document that was ever written to go ahead and say that this is a consensual relationship, that there's no sexual harassment by either party, that neither party would go ahead and sue the city, and there was never any document to protect the city. The commissioners are there to protect the city from those type of lawsuits and those type of innuendos and things that occur, and that did not happen. The choosing of Hush Govi as a commissioner was done improperly. There was a sunshine violation. Circuit Court judge has ruled that. He had to be removed from the commission, and all of his actions before that were invalidated. The same thing occurred, the same selection process occurred with at least 2 planning commission people, because I was at the commission, and it was not done on the dais, it was not done in the sunshine. This is because of either the legal advice that was provided at the time, or you did not have a strong, certified clerk to provide that information. It's going to be incumbent upon you to go ahead and hire a certified clerk who requires 2 years of training, education to do that, or to have a master's in certification to do that. When Shane was removed from the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, and was permanently removed and lost his appeal, that is very, very significant. We need to have someone in here that is certified, that abides by the tenets and the ethics of an international association. So if you do decide to get rid of Shane and hire someone, continued membership in that association is a must. And any city clerk, if you obtain one, and there are some local ones, I know several of them here in the area, that may be interested if the position becomes available. We're trying to build back the public trust. I think that's why the election turned out the way it did. Thank you.
My name's Tom Wally. I live at 60 137th Avenue Circle in Madeira Beach, Florida, 33708. I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but I'm going to kind of piggyback off something that last gentleman said. Your city attorney has given a lot of bad advice to the commission and the people in this city, and I really think that if you're going to be making changes, it should start with the city attorney. You can look at the information that I've given you people and see how he has deprived me of my due process. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, at this time, we're going to end public comment. All right.
I'll start my time until we know the mic works. Hello, can you hear me? Here we go. Stephen Barrett, 11905 3rd Street East, Unit Number 2. If I may please the commission, ladies and gentlemen, there is a medical marijuana dispensary opening in Madeira Beach at 201 150th Avenue at Jeff the Jeweler. Jeff Brown and Shane Crawford are colluding behind the scenes to close the jewelry store and lease the building to Trulieve, a medical marijuana dispensary. Google it. Trulieve. Click the location on the website and scroll down, and it'll say Madeira Beach coming soon. Pull out your smartphones, people. Once it becomes recreational, there'll be stoners down the causeway trying to buy drugs. Okay? They're colluding. It's collusion. I worked for him for a year and a half. That's how I know. I recently quit because I know they're not the stand-up people that I thought they were. Also, Crawford's giving out the key to the city gym to his friends, to Jeff the Jeweler's son, okay? And just to prove it, I asked his friend for the key before he left town, and here it is. And it says gym right on it, okay? I've never used it. There you go. Try it after the meeting, okay? I bet you it works. Everyone keep laughing. Also, why is Spieler Companies the city's main marine contractor? Because Crawford and Doug Spieler Jr. are buddies? Are favors and money being passed around? I know the ex-mayor after he cheated on his wife. After the ex-mayor cheated on his wife, he lived at Doug Jr.'s house. Okay? This is all a big joke, okay? It's all a big joke, okay? It's like Jerry Springer, Judge Judy, and WWE wrestling all mixed together. Can you smell what I'm cooking?
Anybody else? All right, at this point, we will be closing public comment, and we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Commission meeting is reconvened at 7:10. All right, there is no
If we can have everyone's attention, we're going to call the meeting back to order. If you could sit down, please, hold your comments so the mayor can move forward. Everybody sit down, please. Hold your comments. Thank you.
There is no consent agenda, so we will move forward with unfinished business. The first unfinished business is the active FEMA grants requiring contract modification, revision, approval. And does the staff want to make a presentation? Marcy.
Hello. Hi, my name is Marcy Forbes. I'm a senior project engineer with Doolin Associates, and I'm currently managing the active FEMA grants that the city has. As you guys know, we've workshopped this topic, and we've also kind of met with several of you one-on-one to also follow up and discuss these contracts. So what you see before you tonight is a revision to the contract for 905 Bay Point Drive. This contract is between the city and the homeowner. It's already been approved through FDM and executed by the city with them. This basically increases the homeowner's spend from the $172,000 to $574,905. It doesn't change what FDM contributes to the project. It only changes what the homeowner himself is allowed to contribute. The second item in this contract also takes the period of performance from January 9th, 2017, and extends it to July 9th, 2017. I provided with you guys on the dais, you guys already had a copy of the contract that was going to be executed, since the homeowner typically executes it first and then the city does. So attached you find a copy of the contract that the homeowner has executed. When the mayor executes the contract, you'll be executing the original versions of what the homeowner has signed. Any questions with regard to this contract or agreement? I know that I've met with each of you, and after I discuss the second contract, I'll also mention some of the questions that I've already addressed with each of you, just to follow up on those. The second one is for grant 2014-006. This grant has 7 recipients in it. Of the 7, 1 has currently been awarded an increase in his budget. Once more, it doesn't increase any money provided by FDM. It just simply allows the homeowner himself to spend more money. This contract needs to be executed between the city and FDM at this point. So that's where we're at with this agreement. As previously stated, this has 7 recipients in it. During my conversation with Commissioner Dolthert, he pointed out that 2 of the properties, currently the property owner doesn't match. The contract property owner didn't match the current property appraiser information, and that's because the properties was sold in the middle of the grant process. I did reach out to FDM, and they updated the proper ownership for 860 Bay Point to Deborah Zeman. And once the property owner for 914 Bay Point Drive indicates their interest or lack of in the process, then that homeowner name will be updated as well. So at this point, in the next few days, Mayor Black, you'll be asked to come in and sign the contracts along with the city attorney and acting clerk, or however that'll go. That would be the next step. Any questions?
Yes, Marcy. In the workshop packet that we received a couple of weeks ago, it did indicate about the foundation, underground utilities, the sewers. I need to verify all that is covered now, because I didn't see it in this paperwork.
Yes, ma'am. What I did was, because I had supplied you with so much information during the workshop, I cut this back to strictly what would be executed tonight. But to answer your question, foundation, utilities, and all of that is covered under the hard cost for construction. And if you think about it, basically the intent is to get you from ground to certificate of occupancy. So the grant includes all the hard costs for construction for those items.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Anything else?
So a question for you then, Marcy. So what you're looking for tonight is a motion to approve the amendments to FEMA Grant 2013-004 and FEMA Grant 2014-006. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, City Attorney.
Okay, so Mayor, that's what we're going to need.
All right, then at this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the active FEMA grants and the contract modification and the revision.
I'll make that motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please call the roll? The acting city clerk.
Vice Mayor Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much.
All right, next is the joint participation agreement between the City of Madeira Beach and the State of Florida Department of Transportation. Does the city staff wish to make a presentation?
Yes, ma'am, we do. This is a ongoing project that we have with DOT. This joint agreement is a LAP project to resurface from 131st Avenue South all the way to the Tom Stewart Causeway. CPWG is our lead engineer and construction management folks on this, and Steve Tart is here. If I could please have Steve come up for the new commission. I don't think you've had the opportunity to meet Steve, and he'll be the lead on this project. We are going to let the project for the DOT manage the project for the DOT, and the DOT will pay for the resurfacing. Steve?
As David said, this is part of an ongoing part of the underground. And what we did is early on in the undergrounding project, the DOT was going to mill and resurface. At that time, we were trying to determine if we were going to have impacts on Gulf Boulevard. And we asked the DOT to stop their process and allow us the opportunity to determine that, which we have. Now that that's done, DOT is ready to move forward. And we agreed as the city to take over the responsibility of doing the contracting in partnership with DOT to go ahead and resurface. They're also going to do signal work, I believe, at 140th. So now we're ready to do that. What we need tonight is approval from the city to go ahead and enter into the joint agreement. We need to have the agreement executed between the city and FDOT by June 1st. And then we have until September 30th to actually advertise for the procurement. And then we'll have till January of 2019 to actually get the mill and resurfacing completed. Any questions?
What's the length of the project, Steve?
I think it'll probably take between 9 and 12 months to do. Maybe less. It'll depend on the speed of the contractor and, of course, weather conditions. But it's just a basic resurfacing, so it's a pretty quick project.
Most of the work is going to be happening at night, or do we know?
We don't know yet. That'll be determined in the negotiations with the contractor.
Okay.
As I recall, you said it would begin probably the first of the year.
I would guess that would be the earliest.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And so what are you actually looking for the commission?
To approve entering into the agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation.
Which you have that agreement in front of you, I believe. Maybe not. It's in the packet.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the joint participation agreement between the City of Madeira Beach and the State of Florida Department of Transportation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments from the commission? Any comments from city staff?
No.
The floor is now open for public comment on that issue. All right, Acting City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Douthat?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
All right, I believe next we have a presentation by, the attorney's name is?
Mr. Abear.
Yes.
Good evening, members of the Madeira Beach Council, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and citizens of Madeira Beach. My name is Jay Abear, and I'm humbled and honored to be here on behalf of the Crawfords, and I appreciate, Mr. Lister, your motion allowing me additional time. I think anytime we can get together and talk and try to solve issues before they escalate is a good thing, and it's prudent for taxpayers to see that happen, and I appreciate the extra time. And Mr. Vice Mayor, I appreciate you breaking the tie on that issue and letting me have the extra time, because I do have some things that are very important to talk about today. I am a big fan of Madeira Beach. I grew up here. I went to school just across the bay at Stetson University. And when I planted my roots here, I decided that this was kind of an unsavory place back in the 80s. So I live on Bayshore in St. Pete and Shore Acres. But I love Madeira Beach. I love what it's become. I think this is a wonderful community. I think things have changed here dramatically. And I so respect what Mr. Lister said about the $6.5 million to over $20 million in assets. And there's one person that's been here for that entire duration. And he is your current city manager. And I'll tell you why he's your current city manager in just a second. But that's a big part of why this city has gone the direction it's gone. He's not going to make everybody happy. None of you are going to make everybody happy. What I see here today is a microcosm of what's happening in government in our country today. At some point in time, we have to start healing. We have to start coming together as a community and society, and putting our differences aside and working towards a common goal and a common good. Madeira Beach is a beautiful place. I've never been in this building. I remember what this building was like back in the 80s. I practice criminal law. I'm an AV-rated preeminent criminal lawyer. I was named one of the top 100 criminal lawyers in North America. I'm here because I'm defending somebody who's been wrongfully accused and his wife. They are guilty of one thing, ladies and gentlemen. They're guilty of meeting, disclosing to this board, telling them that they were going to date, and they're guilty of falling in love and getting married. That's what they're guilty of. On 5/3, I sent a letter to you, Madam Mayor, and I copied Mr. Trask, who's been a complete gentleman throughout this process with our office. And I asked you to give us additional time with regard to the special hearing that you wanted to have on 5/4. I notified you in writing that I was going to be out of town. I notified you that I was concerned about substantial sunshine law violations. I have a great deal of evidence already at my disposal that this has happened. And we will find out other evidence that shows sunshine law violations have occurred. I asked for additional time. You denied that. I put you on notice that there were potential law violations regarding the Sunshine Act. I was contacted by a third party, an individual by the name of Ken Weiss, who proposed a resignation for my client prior to even having a meeting or a hearing. I asked Mr. Weiss, who do you represent? What is your interest? I sent him an email. I'm not going to speak to you. I want to know who you represent and why you are trying to manipulate my client's career and his job here at Madeira Beach. Then you held the hearing. I told you I was going to be out of the country. I had tickets booked months ago, and I went on my trip. I courtesy copied Mr. Trask on all of this information. And then, yesterday, I sent a letter asking to have additional time so I would not be limited to the 3 minutes. And again, Mr. Lister, thank you for that motion, and I'm sorry for your personal loss. That request was denied. I appreciate Vice Mayor siding with us and allowing us to have this extra time. I will say this, with regard to Pat Sconce, I believe that issue is now done and over. I think the evidence is extremely clear about that information regarding Mr. Crawford. Let me first address the procedure that was not followed. You have an agenda, Madam Mayor. The agenda for the special hearing you emergency set for 5/4, on your agenda, you specifically said that you were going to review charter officers. The rules of procedure under the charter of this board specifically says, section 4.5, rules of procedures. The Board of Commissioners shall meet regularly at such time and place as determined by the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners may schedule other regular meetings as it deems necessary in accordance with established rules of procedure. Special meetings, which is exactly what was called last Thursday, may be held on the call of the mayor or a majority of the commission members with no less than 24 hours in notice in writing to each member and the public. Any such notice shall state the subject to be considered at the special meeting, which shall be restricted to the items specified in the notice. This meeting was heard and called in 24 hours. The agenda title was Review of Charter Officers. I will now direct you to Rule 6.1 of your charter. Under Rule 6.1, it lists specifically who the charter officers are. You will not see city manager on that list. The guidelines and the bylaws and the charters require this to occur in this order, and you're not allowed to change the rules in the middle of the game. Section 6.1, charter officers, city clerk, city attorney, city treasurer. That's the list. It does not include city manager. The hearing that took place on Thursday, the 4th, is null and void by your own bylaws. With regard to Mrs. Crawford's termination, I would submit to you that under the charter, it should have been defined as unfinished business, because on 4/11/2017, you had a hearing and a meeting at which time you discussed her being terminated. Under the rules of Robert's procedure and following the guidelines, this should have been classified and designated as unfinished business. Therefore, her termination is in violation of your charter. Clearly, this was not new business. This had been discussed prior and should have been dealt with accordingly. I will try to limit my comments to what we suspect and where we will be going from this point forward. We have initiated and we will complete a thorough public records request. We suspect that there have been multiple Sunshine Law violations, but we will wait for the evidence. We will wait for the evidence. And I agree with Mr. Trask. Now is not the time to point fingers at anyone. The time will come when the evidence will do all the pointing we need. We were contacted directly by Mr. Weiss. We do not, to this day, know what his role was or whether he was representing entities that are within this building or have had contact with any other individuals within this building. A proposed letter including his resignation was sent to us. I asked him over and over again in the email, who do you represent? I anticipate the public records request to see what the evidence shows. I anticipate there will be a possible notice of intent to sue under pre-suit notice requirements of the state of Florida. I intend to consider possible injunctive relief to preserve the evidence that is contained within the data of the following information. All electronic communication of all board members, all incoming emails, faxes, electronic communications, all cell phones, all texts from all sources, and the IP addresses that were used in compliance with the Sunshine Law. All this we're going to be asking to be preserved for forensic evidence so that we can have that forensic evaluation done, including but not limited to determine if things have been deleted. In the state of Florida, we take the Sunshine Laws very seriously, and I know as a board you understand that. We will also, if necessary, do a forensic evaluation and a cloud-based evaluation, and we have experts that have been retained to take that up immediately. If necessary, we will contact the Attorney General's office, Pam Bondi in Tallahassee, and ask for her assistance under the Sunshine Laws, which is the proper guidelines for us to be able to get the information to make sure that nothing inappropriate happened. In closing, there is no question that the 5/4/2017 meeting was invalid, that the charter was not properly followed, but that leads me to several questions. What is the status of both of my clients? Do we go back to work? Do we not go back to work? Have we been properly terminated? We have not received a copy of the resolution. In the guidelines, it specifically says we are to receive a signed copy of the resolution as quickly as possible. That then tolls a 5-day period in which we have the right to enter our response and objections. and I can assure you there will be if you have another hearing and is properly calendared, properly set on agenda, and the issues are discussed. Obviously, I will tell you that both Shane and Cheryl Crawford are concerned about their city. They have worked here a long time. Cheryl started here when she was 22 years old. It doesn't mean everybody in the room has to like her. It doesn't mean everybody in the room has to think she's doing a great job. But she has been here since she's 22 years old. Shane came here after a 2-year nationwide search. And I believe, as Mr. Lister pointed out, those numbers don't happen magically. It took a village. He just happened to be the head of this village. He may not make everybody in this room happy, and there may be issues that don't make you happy. But the items that you have listed to call for his resignation, we do not believe hold water. $6.5 million to $20 million in assets. Madeira Beach has been a better place since Shane Crawford came here. I think what hurts them the most, and the most emotional part about this process, is they are not able to finish the job they started. They're torn whether they want to be here. They live here, they're residents here. They're torn about whether or not where they want to go from this point forward. As I said before, they're guilty of one thing: meeting, falling in love, asking your permission to date, and getting married. There's nothing in the handbook that says they can't do that. I've read it cover to cover. It is not their intentions to hurt the citizens of Madeira Beach or cost vast sums of money, which, again, Mr. Lister, I think it's good that we're talking. And in speaking with my clients tonight, they'd like to continue talking. So I've told Mr. Trask that my door is open, and I'm willing to sit down and talk with them. Because you know what we don't need in Madeira Beach? We don't need a $3 million legal tab, as brought up at the beginning of this meeting. And I sure don't think we want, I'm fairly confident, we don't have to start removing people because they've violated sunshine laws. Perhaps this will be the learning curve and the beginning of a healing process, and let Madeira Beach get back to doing what it's doing best, which is growing and becoming the best spot in Pinellas County. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you.
Mr. City Attorney, I thought I heard a comment. Is there public comment after that? I don't believe so.
Mayor, you can allow public comment on any particular item that you want under the law. There's a state statute that provides that people have the opportunity to speak to each agendized item. So it's at your call whether they are limited to their comments at the public comment portion or if you want to allow them additional time to speak under that particular topic. And my advice to you, Mayor, is as contentious as this has been, is just to allow people to express their thoughts and their comments, limit it to them 3 minutes, and then we can move on to the next agenda item. That's my advice to you.
I agree. I will allow you to speak on this topic with 3 minutes. And again, please keep your comments civil.
Do I have to introduce myself again?
Yes.
My name is Tom Wally. I live at 137th Avenue in Madeira Beach, Florida, 33708. Well, what that gentleman just said is he represents Shane Crawford and his wife. And he'd like to get together with the city attorney that Shane Crawford hired and work the whole situation out. It just seems a little crazy to me. My situation with my home has got me in a very similar...
Mayor. He didn't hire the city attorney.
This is not on the topic.
Pardon me?
I don't believe this is on topic.
Okay, I'm sorry. When I was listening to that lawyer speak of the situation that Shane and Cheryl are in, it reminded me of the exact same situation that I'm in. I came in here and begged the city for a continuance on my hearing. I wrote Mr. Trask a letter and asked him for a continuance on my hearing because my attorney was out of town. And I came here and he forced me to...
Mr. Wally, this agenda item is dealing with the Crawfords, and so if you could limit your comments to that particular agendized item.
I'm just trying to show a comparison of the way that they're complaining about the way that they were treated and how it parallels exactly how the city and you, Mr. Trask, has treated me.
Okay, I think they've got that now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Stephen Rayo, 557 Crystal Drive, Madeira Beach. Well, after that very exquisite presentation, I am going to remind the commission of my comments the last time I was at this podium last week ago, Thursday. I mentioned 3 violations that we must be very, very careful about: misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. After hearing the remarks by the attorney for the plaintiffs, it appears to me that if this evidence comes forth, then at least 2 of those violations have been committed by some members of this body. I have to disagree with the esteemed attorney when he said that we may not go forward with the dismissal of certain persons on this board for violating those laws. I disagree because others have been dismissed for violating those laws. And this is a country of law and not of privilege. And those who violate these sunshine laws must be dealt with according to law. And if criminal action is necessary for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance, I believe it's appropriate. Thank you.
John, can you check and see if the button is pushed on? Yeah.
Got it. Do you need my address again?
For the record.
John
yes,
Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. It's time to put Shane and Cheryl back to work. The developers have cut back on these projects. There's got to be compromise. It's time to compromise. Let the developments move. Let's move Madeira Beach forward. This is nonsense. You're breaking this city with attorney costs. Let's move this town forward. Let's put these 2 good people back in their seats. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? In the back?
Hi, Ginger Tolliver, 814 Bay Point Drive, Madeira Beach, Florida. I just would like to piggyback on what their lawyer said. They were only guilty of meeting, falling in love, and getting married or whatever. And I would like to say, and moving this city forward. Both of them together have made this city something to be proud of. And to dismiss them is beyond belief as far as I'm concerned, and many, many others who don't have the, I don't know, won't get up here and speak. But they've done nothing but move this city forward. And I do thank you tonight for giving attorney a chance to speak. I think you all should just sit back and think. before you dismiss both of them. They've done nothing but bring money and honor to this city.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore, Madeira Beach. Try to be a little more calm than I was last time. The Sunshine Law, last week, 5-4, you said we, so something took place prior to the meeting. I remember when it was introduced the candidates time, and one of the commissioners, and there was others that were nodding their head. We need to take a look at the budget and the expenditures that are being spent within the city, and we need to curtail some of that. It doesn't look like you're doing that. You're going to cost the city millions, hundreds of thousands. That means there's not going to be improvements in lights. There's not going to be improvements in streets. There's not going to be improvements in sewer, because of irresponsible decisions made by 3 of the commissioners, period.
I think that there's been a lot
Name and address, please.
Thank you. Doreen Moore, 13019 Boca Ciega Avenue. A lot of fuzzy math tonight. I'd like to remind people that it is the vote that puts people out into office. We have 4,000 residents, and I understand that the number that came out and voted, well, it was a majority of people that voted that put the newly elected into office. And the reason they did that is because there are many people who had a problem with the process, how things were being done, how things were being presented, how things were being handled. So I'm suggesting that we shouldn't, you as elected officials, and I guess I used the wrong word, we, but you as elected officials shouldn't be intimidated by the fact that attorneys are here and they're threatening, that people are saying that you're going to spend millions of dollars. You are there to guide the city. And I have to suggest that if the former city manager really cared about his city and really cared about his profession, that possibly he would think about exiting professionally, as we've seen when times change and people have differences of opinion, they exit gracefully, negotiate their contract, and go on. And that's the way to handle it professionally. And thank you all for steering the course.
Steve Kochik, 15301 2nd Street East, Madeira Beach. This is a decision to make now. We have an attorney that comes up and is guaranteeing that there's going to be a flushing out of everything. We've gone through this for many years. We've gone through this a couple of years ago where there was tremendous turmoil. Every once in a while, sections of the city, people in the city raise up. They get some people to believe what they're saying. They get them to run, and turmoil hits the city. This is the time to call it bluff. Let that attorney come on. I want to see him get all that information. I want to see the emails. I want to see the text messages. I want to see what's been going on behind the scenes. It's going to be good for both of you also, because you're going to understand what's going on. Do not hire Shane back. Let it fight. Bring it out. Bring it on. It's about time, and once and for all, that a section of the city that constantly mishandles the truth, twists the truth, gets pulled out in the open and we find out what the truth is. Because my fear is you do something and what you're going to be told is bring him back, and in 60 days you're going to find cause to fire him and he won't be able to bring his attorney back. Right now, go for it. Let the attorney do his job, fight. If it cost us money, it's not the citizens that caused this, it's the board. My recommendation is let the attorney do the investigation and find out if everything's on the up and up or not. And that's what I say.
Anyone else? All right, next on the agenda is the rescinding of Planning Commissioner David Lawrence's resignation. He is asked to remove that from the agenda. So we'll go on to the next item, which is the alcoholic beverage application 2017-03. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, how would you like to handle this item?
I'd like to just go over a couple of things with you. This application is going to be reviewed by staff. Mr. Cerna is here to do that, along with the next application after that. I want to remind you that pursuant to Section 110-532 of your code, you need to take into consideration the following factors when deciding whether or not to approve this application. And Mr. Cerna is going to go through each one of them, and he's going to give you his findings. The first one is the extent to which the location and the extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. The second item is the extent to which traffic generated as a result of the location of the proposed alcoholic beverage request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. The third criteria that you are to consider is whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the particular location for which it's proposed. The fourth is whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect public safety. And then the catch-all after that is no application for review under that section shall be considered until the applicant has paid in full any outstanding charges, fees, interest, fines, or penalties owed by the applicant to the city under any sections of the code. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Cerna. He's going to talk to you about this application. He's going to give you the city's recommendation, and then you are to decide by motion as to whether or not you're going to approve that application. Mr. Cerna?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This first application is for the owners of Beach Fun and Games. They're seeking approval of a 2 COP alcoholic beverage permit, and this is for the sale of beer and wine only, to expand the area of an existing amusement center and cafe from which alcoholic beverages may be sold. The establishment is located at 12975 Village Boulevard in the C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District. The establishment currently has a 2 COP license for the sale of alcoholic beverages within the existing amusement center and cafe. The applicant is seeking to expand the sale of food and beer and wine into an area of the existing building that has in the past been used for offices, retail sales, and most recently for storage. According to Section 110-534A of the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, this approval requires approval of the Board of Commissioners because they're enlarging the area of the sale within which the sale of alcoholic beverages may take place. We've reviewed this in accordance with Section 110-532. Our findings are in the report. I'll go over them briefly. The first criteria is the extent to which the location and the extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. Our finding is that the proposed alcoholic beverage request is to expand the area within an existing building from which alcohol may be served. The business is within an intensely developed commercial district located along Village Boulevard and is surrounded by other establishments that also serve food and beverages. The request is not expected to adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. The second is in regard to traffic. Our finding is the existing business currently has a 2 COP license for the sale of alcoholic beverages within the existing amusement center and cafe. The requested permit is to allow the expansion of the area within the existing building within which they may sell alcohol. The area of the expansion has been used in the past for retail sales, offices, and most recently for storage. Therefore, this request is not expected to result in an increase in traffic and is not considered a safety hazard. The third criteria is in regard to whether or not the proposed use is compatible for the location in which it is proposed. The site of the existing business is within an intensely developed commercial district located along Village Boulevard. It is surrounded by other establishments that also serve food and alcoholic beverages. The area in which the expansion of alcoholic services proposed is located within an enclosed structure and is not located in close proximity to any use that would be considered incompatible with the proposed use. The alcoholic beverage request is compatible for the location for which it is proposed. The fourth criteria is whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect public safety. The requested license is not anticipated to adversely affect public safety. The subject site is located in a commercial district that includes uses that are compatible with the cafe that serves alcoholic beverages. And again, it's just limited to beer and wine. And then finally, our finding is that there are no outstanding fines, penalties owed to the city under any section of the code. Staff's recommendation is, therefore, that alcoholic beverage permit 1703 to allow a 2 COP license for the expansion of the area from which alcoholic beverages may be served within the existing Beach Fun and Games Arcade and Cafe located at 12975 Village Boulevard be approved for the reasons contained in this agenda report. And I'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
I've got a question. The 12975, but on what we're being shown here in the picture, they're showing 1297. Is it a different place, or is this the same place? Is it just that little building where the games are? That's the extent? I guess I don't understand. Where are they moving this to? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you look at the picture, it is at the corner of 129th Avenue East and Village Boulevard. Now, the Beach Fun and Games is located a little bit down the block, but it is the same owner and the same businesses between the two, between where you see Beach Fun and Games and the corner. But the proposed area is at the intersection, and it's within the area that has recently been improved for the sale of food.
Okay, I understand that, and they're right now they're selling the alcoholic beverages in the amusement, the Fun and Games Amusement Center, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so where are they expanding to, I guess is what I don't understand.
It's expanding at the intersection. If you look at the picture that is in the packet, it's the area that has the windows, that has the large fish, and then there are pictures of that interior. That was recently improved for that expansion to that area. I'm not certain if that is a correct mailing address at that on the second level there, but we did use the address for Beach Fun and Games.
Okay, that was my concern, because I walked up there and walked around and looked at it, and down at the end, that is a different address than the 12975.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I don't understand. Shouldn't the address for that place be on here on the request also?
Yeah, we were not certain of the address on the upstairs unit, so we used the address for Beach Fun and Games. We do have authorization from the owners, and we hope that with that and with what's in the packet, we are hopefully making clear where this expansion will be taking place.
Okay, because there's another establishment in between these two places.
Yes, but it is the same owner. There is another establishment underneath, but yes, I'm glad you asked for that clarification. It is for the corner area.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Any comments from staff?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Mr. Cerna, the application also has 2 parking places? They only have 2 parking places down there?
Yeah, that area of John's Pass, of course, it does not have designated parking for the entire site. It does have employee parking in the rear. Those are the 2 spaces. But there is parking in the right-of-way as well as the municipal
But they're
parking
showing
garage.
ownership for 5 lots. They have 5 lots there, and 2 parking places, and the drawings that I get seat 40 people for the tables?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no minimum requirement for 40 people?
Well, typically for 40 seats, there would be 10 parking spaces. Half of that, because it's John's Pass, would be 5 spaces.
Right, I know we have it. I've been down this road.
Yeah, it's, but again, we don't have, it's an existing building. Were they expanding? We did not, if they were expanding the building, we would perhaps look a little closer at what the parking requirements were. But of course, in John's Pass, they do have parking in the right-of-way as well as in municipal garage.
Well, no parking's a premium, that's for sure. We know that. I just get these 5 points that we have to pass every time, and it seems like they can get those 5 points. You know, my first objection, I think, was when the ice cream place wanted to sell beer. That was a big deal for me. I really tried to, in my mind, say that's not a good thing, and I still don't think that's a good thing, but the advice of, council, those 5 points were met. And, these 5 points are going to be met every time by these businesses. They say we're going to start serving beer and wine and T-shirts, and then they start serving beer and wine and then ask for a liquor license. And, I love John's Pass, and I've been in Madeira Beach for a long time, and I just don't want it to turn into a row of bars. I've been to Key West, and I've been to New Orleans. And, it just doesn't attract the type of people that I think we're looking for. That being said, I'm not trying to single this person out. I'm really not. Fun and games, that's the name of the business, fun and games, arcade, and we want to sell beer too. So I just have an issue with everybody wanting to, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, make a living, because that's how they make a lot of their money is to sell this. I mean, that's how they make a lot of their money. But I just want to go on record saying that okay, I'll take it with my vote. I'm sorry. That's all I have.
Mr. Lister, I have kind of, when I went up there and I looked at this, and with them, I was very much against this to start with. And the reason was, I walked in there on a Saturday afternoon, there's one table, and it's all geared for kids. It's skee ball and, kid stuff. And I'm thinking, why are we having alcohol where our main customer is kids? If they're moving it, down to the end, where it's more like a restaurant and that kind of stuff, I see that more than I do selling it in there but they already have the license there, where kids are playing and kids are hanging out. And that kind of bothered me, that, who are we catering to? The kids, and I know we're catering to the parents who's bringing the kids in. And so it took me a lot of thought and thinking about this when I read it and went and investigated and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't understand that they were moving down to the end where it's like a restaurant or whatever you want to call it down there. So.
But isn't it amazing that they did all the work and prepared all the tables and put everything together before they come and ask if they can do it, if they can have beer and wine. They can serve sodas there too,
That's true,
it's
sir.
amazing that they put a ton of money in there, and I'm sure they're anticipating some type of return. Is the owner here?
Mayor, we need to let the applicant speak, and then we need to let the public speak before any further comments or consideration.
Again, I'm just learning here,
Yeah.
so let's listen.
So the applicant, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay, if you'd like to step forward, would you like to address the commission tonight? You don't have to, but this is your opportunity.
Nice catch.
Sir, if you could state your name and your address when you get to the podium and make sure that microphone is on, that would be helpful to us.
My name is Paul Sullivan. I'm the business manager for Beach Fun and Games. The owner is Francis Sullivan, who is next to me. We've run Beach Fun and Games for, it's 5.5 years now. And we've had a beer and wine license for 4.5 years in the original location. We have added, fully permitted by the city, a cafe in the same building complex because our customers were looking for food while they were upstairs playing. So we are answering that request from our customers. We didn't have floor space where we have the original arcade. One of the confusions is we use the same mailing address because it's the same LLC, it's the same company. So mail doesn't go to 12961, which is the actual physical location of where the food is going to be served, which is where we want the extension of the license. You have other questions for us?
Yes, I do. So you're just going to move, you just want to extend it. You got the arcade, and then there's other things that y'all are doing in between, and you're just going to put it in on that end, that round part that's down on the end?
Yes.
Right.
If you could put the microphone in front of you so the audience and those watching at home can hear.
Sorry. We didn't ask for the beer and wine. We didn't realize that people were going to be, the parents and the families that come in, they come in and they're on vacation, and the parents want to have beer and wine with their meal. And we've been open a little bit, and we've lost business because we don't have it. And that's, we put a lot of money into it, as you could see. We made a really nice place, and the food is really good. So we'd like to complement the food with the beer and wine. We're not looking to be a bar. I in no way, shape, or form want to be a bar, ever. I don't want to have a liquor license. Basically, the people who come to see us, the parents come in, they say, here, kids, go play. They have private time with each other or with ladies that come in. They have girls' night out. They come in. Sometimes they leave the kids at home. They don't even bring the kids with them. They just come in and play skee ball and socialize amongst themselves. So, we're not looking to be a bar. We're not looking to be a hangout. We're just looking to provide we're basically like a miniature Dave and Buster's. That's pretty much what we are. And that we're not looking to be anything other than that. We're not looking for any trouble. We don't have any trouble. We don't stand for any trouble. We always cooperate with local law enforcement all the time. Anytime they need anything, we're right there. So with any kind of information or surveillance or anything that they need. So, we're doing the best that we can to be upright, good standing citizens.
Yes, and I believe that, Ms. Sullivan. Thank you very much for that explanation. I have no more questions for these. I do have a question for Mr. Cerna.
I have no more questions.
Do they have to have 50% food, or is there a ticket item on that they have to serve so much food before they can, with this 2 COP?
There is. In order to be classified as a restaurant, it has to be 60% attributable to the sale of food.
Okay, that's good. So that's all I need to know. Thank you very much.
Mayor, we need to open it up to the public if the public has any comment.
Tom Edwards, Protected Address District 1. I just had a comment or a question, Mr. Cerna.
No, hold on a second. You can make your comments, Mr. Edwards.
Well, I would
Not a
just ask,
question.
basically, was the sheriff's office or the fire department contacted to get comments on new businesses like that and that activity? So if you're going to have an alcoholic beverage, and also is it going to be just restricted to beer and wine? So if a new owner comes in, would they be able to get a different type of license? If they decide to sell the property, would they be able to get a different type of license? But when you have something like this with alcohol, you need to get input from the police service and from fire department on that, and calls for service if there have been problems there in the past concerning that. That's all.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, this time I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Mrs. Mons is...
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you. I just have one comment, kind of along the line that Terry
Mrs.
was
Mons, if you could
mentioning.
state-
I'm
if you
sorry.
could state your name for it.
June Mons, 13321 Boca Ciega Avenue, Madeira Beach, Florida. My comment is along the line that Terry was going, in that I wish that we could develop a city policy about who's going to have licenses, alcohol licenses, and who's not, because I know that we've gotten more and more and more and more, and it does seem like almost every other T-shirt shop has a beer or wine license, and I like to drink beer and wine, but I do think there's a limit, and we don't want John's Pass or any neighborhood really to become consumed, with just like bar after bar. So I don't know if we could do that by limiting the number within this city, like we can only have 150 places that sell beer and wine, or 200, or there's got to be some way a city can manage what they're looking for. So maybe the city attorney could help with that, if there are any ways to manage it. Just a thought.
All right, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of alcoholic beverage application 2017-03.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that this commission pass alcoholic beverage permit number 17-04 for a 2 COP license, beer and wine only, sell by drink for consumption on premise, and package sales in sealed containers to convert to a convenience store located at 15045 Madeira Way.
No, that's the
No,
wrong one,
different
Terry.
I'm sorry.
That's the second one.
I am reading the wrong one. I apologize, Madam Mayor.
We're close.
I'll get there, though. All right. That's back here. Madam Mayor, I'd ask this commission to pass a alcoholic beverage permit number 17-03 for a 2 COP licensed beer and wine only, sell by drink for consumption on premise and package sale in sealed containers to expand the area from which alcoholic beverages may be served within existing business located at 12975 Village Boulevard.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor
Acting
Douthat?
City clerk.
Yes. Commissioner Lister?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Next is alcoholic beverage application 2017-04. Mr. City Attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, the same 5 criteria that were listed before the previous case are the same criteria that you're going to be reviewing today. Mr. Cerna has prepared the city staff report, and he's going to go ahead and make the presentation. At the conclusion of the public hearing, we'll be requesting for a motion to approve, which can be voted up or down. Mr. Cerna?
Yes, this application is for approval of a 2 COP alcoholic beverage permit, again, for the sale of beer and wine only, to convert a convenience store known as Beach Food Mart to a bar. The convenience store has a 2 APS license, and that was for the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption at this location. The subject property is located at 15045 Madeira Way in the C3 Retail Commercial Zoning District. Section 110-534A of the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances requires approval of the Board of Commissioners to change the nature of the use of a property that has an existing alcoholic beverage permit. So it requires your approval because it's changing the nature of the use. It is to a 2 COP license. This request is for approval of a bar. This is different from the last one because it's not classified as a restaurant. So in addition to the criteria that I read earlier, there is a 300-foot separation requirement. The section of the code, 110-530, restricts bars to no closer than 300 feet from property occupied by an established church, synagogue, temple, or place of religious worship, public or private school operated for the instruction of minors, or youth recreation community center. And we've found that, and the applicant has submitted evidence showing that there are none of these items within 300 feet, and staff has verified that. In regard to the other criteria, the extent to which the location and extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. The request is not expected to adversely affect the character of this neighborhood. The property was most recently used as a convenience store that sold beer and wine for off-premises consumption. This is in a retail area that is intensely developed for commercial uses, located on Madeira Way. It is surrounded by other uses that serve food and alcoholic beverages, including bars. The extent to which traffic generated as a result of the location of the proposed request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. Our finding is the request for convenience request for conversion of the convenience store will not have an adverse effect on trip generation or on safety. Bars typically have a lower trip generation per square foot than convenience stores. The area in which the use is proposed is served by public transit, and it will likely receive a high level of pedestrian traffic. So we do not find that this area this proposed use will have an adverse effect on traffic or safety. The applicant is in the process of undergoing site plan review, and we are looking at parking and the layout of that, but our preliminary findings are there is sufficient parking for the use given the location. Whether or not the proposed use is compatible with a particular location for which it is proposed, our finding is that it is compatible. This is an intensely developed commercial district and is surrounded by other establishments that are similar in nature. And I've already mentioned the 300-foot separation requirement that this use would meet. Number 4, whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect public safety. The requested license is not anticipated to adversely affect public safety. The site is located in a commercial district that includes uses that are compatible with establishment that serves alcoholic beverages. And finally, our finding is that the applicant has no outstanding fines, penalties, or penalties owed to the city under any section of the code. Based on our findings, staff recommends an alcoholic beverage permit 1704 to allow a 2 COP license to convert a convenience store located at 15045 Madeira Way to a bar be approved for the reasons contained in this agenda report. I'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
I'd just like to mention, it's called a dive bar, but isn't it owned by the person who owns the dive shop in that same shopping center?
The applicant is here, and it will be operated by the owner of the dive shop. Yes.
I just have a comment, Terry, kind of directed at you. I think what you said on the last application is very true. You know, they're doing the work, you know, without coming and talking to us first. And maybe it's too late for this one, but I think, you know, we as the commission need to be kind of addressing this in the future. You know, people coming and they've got everything already done, and then they're saying, oh, we want a license. I think we need to look at that very seriously in the future.
But I don't think it's true on this one, John. I don't think they've done any interior renovations yet.
Yeah.
Oh, have they?
Yes.
They've already got the craft bar set up?
I don't know if the whole thing is set up. I've gone past there a few times to look at it, and things are being already done.
I see.
You know, like I said, I think it's too late for this one and the previous one, but I think that in the future we need
Well, I think what Mrs. Mons brought up was a good idea about Johns Pass, but I've been down that road 5-6 years ago. We tried to limit the number of drinking establishments in Johns Pass, and we were shot down legally because that would change the property values, and inherently the property's owners would sue the city. So we really can't stop this. Now, the only one that we actually, or that I've ever stopped, would be the Mexican restaurant on 150th.
Right,
When
I
we
remember
shut
that
one down? Yeah. And that was purely for safety reasons. You know, the trucks trying to go in there and turn around to service that particular area. On 150th, especially, it's a dangerous road. And so that was one of the reasons that we, as a commission, can curtail the drinking in town. So, again, I have nothing against alcohol. I have been known to drink single malt scotch, and I don't want to promote that. My grandson may be listening to this one someday. So, but I just I don't want to become a town of bars either. You know, I think we've sort of been there before. But I do know with our policing and the other things that are happening in town that we can moderate this growth. So I'm ready for a vote anytime.
Mayor, now's the opportunity for the applicant to step forward and address the commission, make any presentation, answer any questions. Sir, if you could state your name, please, and your address.
Hello. All right. How you doing, commissioners? My name is John W. Vinziano, and I do own the dive shop on Madeira Way. It's 15029 Madeira Way. Good opportunity arose, and I thought it'd be a great place for my dive community and much of this Madeira Beach community to have a place where we can have meetings and have a social drink and talk about business. Real quickly to your comment, sir. There hasn't been any construction done inside the building. There was extensive amount of water damage and rodent damage. So there was a pretty big cleanup thing that needed to be done. That building was in not the greatest shape when I took it over. So it does look like a mess in there, but it's all just making it healthy to be inside there, breathing that air. Any other questions you guys have for me? This is gonna be a craft beer type of brewery. It's going to have that same type of theme and feel. Obviously we'll have fine wine there as well, but it's going to be more of a lounge type of establishment. It's not going to be a dive bar as the name says it, but I did think it would be a good idea to kind of play off the pun. But it is going to be a very nice establishment, and I hope that you guys come join me for a drink.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I am John Veneziano's partner in this venture, and I happen to also be his father-in-law.
Sir, could you state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Paul Smith. I'm a resident of Seminole, Florida, but I'm a retired CPA, fairly new to Florida. My son-in-law was expressing interest in this venture when he told me about the landlord had approached him, and I said, find a partner, and he talked about the partners that approached him, kept describing the business to me, and I said, this is one we ought to keep in the family. And I am convinced that this is something that Madeira Beach needs. Both the dive community that I know from friends throughout the country and exposure throughout the country, and the craft beer community, they travel to destinations where they can share their interest with others that have similar interest. And I see this license resulting in an establishment that people that come into the community find people here with similar interests that they connect with. They go back, they return again, and they return with their friends. So we're excited about that opportunity. We are committed to, we're getting inputs from people that know this business. My son happens to be an executive with one of the largest craft beer companies in the country. They have relationships with businesses that succeed, and we're following a business model that's been proven. And we have a commitment to hire respectful, courteous, knowledgeable staff. We pledge to maintain an environment where people are respectful of one another, and families, people of all ages, can share their interest and enjoy having a drink in a fairly sleek, high-tech, artistic environment that I think will be a positive aspect to the community. So.
Thank you.
So Mayor, we need to open it up to the public for any public comment. Anyone in the public want to address this issue? Yes, sir.
Hello? There we go. Stephen Rayo, 557 Crystal Drive, Madeira Beach. I definitely am not I do not object to this type of enterprise. The only thing I have to ask that we consider is parking. A convenience store, package store, whatever you want to call it, people come, they make their purchase, they park for a moment, and they leave after their purchase. With this type of establishment, there needs to be ample parking, which is very limited over there, or a plan to take care of the overflow. When this thing starts going during season, people are going to spend an hour, 2 hours there, and the traffic will pile up. So I would like to address the commission to address that situation. Thank you.
Any other comments from the floor?
Hello? Yep. Deborah Rogowski, 17117 Gulf Boulevard, North Reddington. I am a customer of the dive shop. They are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I've seen these gentlemen at many places, and I just want to attest that they would be a great addition, I believe, to Madeira Way. They would not run a crazy place, and everybody I know uses Uber now. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, this time I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of alcoholic beverage application 2017-04.
I'll make the,
Go ahead.
okay, I'll make the motion to approve the alcohol beverage application 2017-04.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Will the acting city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Douthert?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
Yes.
All right, at this time, as recommended by City Manager Shane Crawford, I would like to entertain a motion to hire Walter Pierce as Budget Director. Mr. Shane has told him that he would be on this agenda. Will anyone make a motion?
You need, is it on? Well,
Members, my name is Walt Pierce. I want to thank you for giving me the time to meet with each one of you. I did not get a chance to meet with Ms. Oakley, and I regret that. I know the city has some political challenges. I've listened to it this evening. I don't want to get in the middle of this. I do want to be your finance director. But I don't care. I want to be your head finance guy. I'm a finance guy. I have over 30 years of governmental experience. I know a lot of you, most of you got my resume. And I don't care what you call me. I just want to be your head finance guy. You can call me budget director, whatever it is. But I think the city is in good fiscal shape. You heard it from the auditor. this evening. I want to keep this city running fiscally sound, so this time next year, you get the same good audit. And I think that I'm qualified to do that. If there's any other questions you might have from me, I'll be glad to answer whatever those may be.
Any questions from staff, city commission? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pierce.
I'd like to make the motion to authorize the employment of Walter Pierce as the budget director. Part of this is based on that we are coming upon budget time. We have no one in that position, and nothing has been done to work on the budget. I think it's imperative, and by state statutes, we must have a budget. You know, we cannot call him a finance director, because the only person that can hire a finance director is the city manager. So my recommendation is that we hire him as a budget director, and when we get a city manager, whoever that may be, that city manager can then make the recommendation to hire him as the finance director, if that's what he would like to do, he or she would like to do. So I'd like to make the motion that we hire this gentleman.
Before there's a second, Mayor, we need to address the salary requirements of Mr. Pierce. And so, Vice Mayor, did you want to include in your motion, what was included in the agenda is a salary of $90,000 with benefits aligning with other employees of the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's part of your motion then, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, the floor is now open for public comment.
Steve Kochick, 15301 2nd Street East, Madeira Beach. In the city charter and on your organizational chart for the city, there is no term for a budget director. The Board of Commissioners does not have the authority to create a position. Only the city manager can do that. I don't think that this is, once again, we just had an attorney here stating that you just can't make things up and do things. There is no position for a budget director. You can't create your own positions. It's not allowed in the city charter. Without the city manager, you can't do a finance director. And he told you that before you started that with him. So I think you're going to have to ask the city attorney for some guidance on this before you go any further. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. City Attorney?
Let me just address that. Obviously, Mr. Kochek is correct with regard to the finance director. Being a former commissioner, I'm sure he's well aware of what the charter provides. The director of finance, that's what we call him under the code or under the charter, shall be appointed by the city manager subject to the Board of Commissioners' approval. Unfortunately, we don't have a city manager. And unfortunately, if this commission decides to hire a consultant and then ultimately go out to an RFP to find another city manager, we could be talking 4 or 5 months. And one thing that I will tell you in my recommendation, my advice to you, Mayor and Commissioners, is that you have an obligation to provide services to these residents and these citizens in Madeira Beach. You have an obligation to provide them water, sewer, garbage, fire protection, police, and all the other necessities of running a city, and you cannot do that without a budget. One other problem that I foresee is that if you sit back and you wait until you have a city manager to appoint someone to create your budget, you're going to run into the same problem that Kenneth City ran into 2 years ago, where you have no budget. You don't want to be in that position. You're going to have fury come down from Tallahassee if you do that. So with the understanding that certain things are going to have to happen, that we don't necessarily have a code provision or a charter provision to allow us to do this. We have a city to run. You have the business of the day to take care of. And it's my recommendation that you move forward with regard to the employment of Mr. Pierce as your budget director for the sole purposes of creating your budget for the year. And hopefully, he sticks it out, if that's what your pleasure is, and ultimately get appointed as the Director of Finance if that's what your wishes are. But you cannot sit back on your laurels and hope that things happen while you wait for a city manager if in fact you do terminate Mr. Crawford. So you have certain obligations to your residents, and we can't get caught up in wordsmithing at this point while we're trying to keep the city moving forward. So I understand Mr. Kochek's point, but I think that there are certain things that you're going to have to do, and this is one of them, without your city manager.
Will the acting city clerk please call the roll? Oh, I apologize. I called on him first.
Well, this thing keeps getting more and more complicated. We had a city manager that was doing a very competent job. I think it may be time for us to swallow our pride and rethink the remission of previous statements and actions and ask Mr. Crawford if he will kindly come back and do the job he was originally hired to do and continue the work of running this city, because we're making an awful mess of it right now. So, commissioners, when we don't know everything, we have to kind of depend on people that know something. And egos have to be put aside for the benefit of all of us. And I'm willing to support any movement forward that this commission would venture into to save our city embarrassment, unnecessary costs, and possibly legal action by the state of Florida against the corporation of Madeira Beach. Thank you.
Again, I just was sitting in the other room listening to this, and Mr. Trask was going to let you guys go ahead and do something else that Steve brought to your attention that was wrong. Hire a new city attorney that you people actually can work with and isn't going to give you bad advice the way that this gentleman just almost did again.
Bill Mons, 13321 Boca Ciega Avenue, Madeira Beach, Florida. I think that the commission should go forward as suggested by the city attorney. We need a budget director. We need a guy that can do the numbers. We need him now. We can't wait for it to resolve whether there turns out to be any validity to the attorney's claim of sunshine law violations. We can't wait for that. You can't wait for that. Follow the city attorney's recommendation. Thank you.
Tom Edwards, Protected Address District 1. I don't know if I misheard, but I thought you said that it was under the recommendation of Mr. Crawford when this person was brought forward, so I don't know if that's considered as him hiring him or not, so I don't know if it's a legal matter. If the charter specifically says that the city manager can only hire a budget director or finance director. Perhaps you should just call it as a consultant at this time on an interim basis, which is the same that we have as the planning consultant that we hire on a fee basis to go ahead and prepare the budget, and then that way we might not have any violation or any issues that might come up that would be litigated.
Anyone else? Will the acting city clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Douthert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
No.
Commissioner Hodges?
No.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the consent to terminate S8 facility use agreement. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, you'll remember, and hopefully is in your agenda package, a copy of the facility use agreement that the city has with S8 LLC. This facility use agreement is for non-exclusive use of the fitness center here at City Center. This agreement has been in effect since January 12, 2016, and it has a 3-year term. The basics of the agreement are that that the city would be paid by S8 based upon the number of, the gross dollars that the business earns. As you know, S8's principal has sent a letter to the City Commission requesting the city's consent to basically terminate this facility use agreement. And it's my understanding that S8 LLC has already removed some equipment that they had placed in the city fitness center and does not intend to return those pieces of equipment to the gym or the fitness center. And again, these are not owned by the city. These are pieces of equipment that are owned by this limited liability company. That being said, the city has the ability to consent to the termination of the agreement, and frankly, if you don't consent to the termination of the agreement, you're basically providing access to S8 LLC to continue to non-exclusively use the fitness center, and if he does not have clients or customers, there's a possibility that he could be using the facility for himself personally, without having to pay any compensation to the city because it's based upon the gross dollars that his business earns. Based upon the request, I think it's appropriate for the city to enter into a consent agreement to terminate the use agreement subject to S8 LLC paying the city for any funds that it's due up until the date of the termination. And I think there was something to reflect that there's a couple of months' worth of income due the city that has not been paid, and you're entitled to that. So I think the motion would be to approve or the termination of the facility use agreement based upon the request of, of the fitness center owner. So I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. There is no otherwise any termination language or default language that would be helpful to us in this situation, but I'll try to answer any questions that you have. It's my recommendation to terminate the facility use agreement.
Any comments from staff or commission?
Well, I kind of had a conversation with him, was one-sided. He sent me an email. And the whole issue with the whole facility is the fact he couldn't produce any insurance. And it says right here he's got to produce evidence of workers' comp, general liability, and property insurance. And I never saw anything from any of them other than an email from Shane that said, can't we waive it? And he doesn't need workers' comp, but his contract called for it.
His contract requires him to provide compensation, workers' compensation insurance meeting the required statutory limits. So if the statute doesn't require it, then his limits are 0.
Well, that's fine. I still never received anything on either of the other two.
I understand. And that may be another reason for you to terminate if you're not comfortable with the insurance provisions being met.
Any other comments?
They requested the termination, right? They came to us and said, we don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So we want to force them to stay here? Is that what we were even considering? You can't. No. Anything else to say?
Okay.
One other thing, if this facility use agreement is not a lease. And so, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, if it was a lease, you could hold his feet to the fire, and because he'd be paying you a lease payment. On this particular agreement, he's not paying you a lease payment on a monthly basis, therefore he has no continuing legal obligation to pay you anything other than what's earned through the date of the termination based upon the fee schedule that is on page 606 of the agreement.
Any other comments? Okay, this time I'd like to entertain a motion for the consent to terminate S8 facility use agreement and request that they pay back fees. Public comment? Will the acting city clerk please call the roll?
We need a motion on the floor.
Oh,
I make a motion that we go with the consent agreement to terminate the S8 facility use agreement and request that they pay the dollars back that they are owed to the city.
I'll second it.
All right, will acting city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Douthert?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
No.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Okay, at this time I'd like, public comment. Did I get that mixed up with?
No, you've got everything you need to do, and you can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to consider the appointment of interim city clerk Nick Lewis.
Do you need a motion? Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, Mayor, I want to jump in here. We need to address the issue of the compensation of Mr. Lewis. You know, if it's not going to be included in the motion right now, then my suggestion is that the commission make a note that within the next month or two, you come back to address that issue as to whether or not his compensation is going to be increased for taking on these additional responsibilities. And I will tell you that if you want to do it a month or 2 months from now, whenever things are underway, you can compensate Mr. Lewis retroactively to tonight's hearing if he is appointed. So, but we've got to address that issue so that there's no questions later as to what he's being compensated for.
Can I amend the motion?
Well, Mr. Douthert, Vice Mayor, made the motion.
Can I amend the motion to?
Yes, sir.
Look at in 60 days from now to for his compensation, to go back to it?
Okay. So you wanted to add it to the agenda maybe in the month of July for
Yes,
for
that'd be
discussion
perfect.
purposes?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to give Nick a 60-day like probation? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to call it a probation, but, you know, we could call it a probation. But I feel that if he's doing the job, that he should be compensated for it. And at this point, you know, I don't know what the dollar amount would be. We can do it 30 days or whatever to give us a chance to look at, you know, what he should be compensated at what rate. That's I guess is what I'm asking.
Okay, the floor is open for public comment.
I don't think we got a second on the
I
motion.
seconded it.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
Public comment? All right, Acting City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
I'm sorry, I have one. And you're going to maintain the title as interim city clerk? Is that,
That's the motion right now.
okay?
He's not going to maintain it, he's going to
Well,
assume
for
that
this
role.
60 days, right?
Right.
Okay, yes.
But I have an issue with giving him the responsibility to do it and then not paying him.
We can always make it retroactive.
That's true, and then he can always work retroactive too. I mean, it's just, you don't put somebody in the position and then say, well, you know, do this now and I'll pay for it later. That's not the way business works. Sorry, Nick.
What would your recommendation be then, Terry?
I'd give him a raise. If you're going to give him, if you're going to give him the extra responsibility, you have to pay him for that, John.
Oh, I agree 100%. It's not what I'm saying, but I don't know to say what dollar amount, you know,
Exactly, and we don't want to raise what he makes now. I mean, do we want to say that out here?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay,
think so.
all right.
So that's why I'm saying.
Do you want to know how much the last city clerk made? Do you know how much she made?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
That's why I'm taking this time and saying, yes, you know, we want to do it. And, you know, in 30 days or 60 days or whatever, and that gives us a chance, or at least me a chance, to go back and look and see what the other person was making. Is kind of what I was putting out there. If you have a better suggestion, I'm all ears.
I'm confused. I just don't want to give him the title of the acting or interim city clerk and not pay him what I think he's worth or what he thinks he's worth. You know, it's self-esteem. It's just if he's going to put the hours in, and there's going to be some hours. I'm just saying, city clerk's a big job. It's something that he may be ready for, and he may not be ready for it. I know there was people that have done that weren't ready for it. So
Then, are you suggesting we put him to what the salary of the past city clerk was?
I have to admit to you, I'm not sure if he's ready for city clerk. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's our best fit. And I know he's inside. I know he's inside the organization, and he's been doing the job to a certain extent. But you know, I don't know all the city clerk does. I know the city clerk for me did a lot. You know, personally. I mean, when I say personally, you know, my travel and everything I did, and set up all the meetings and all the other stuff. There's a ton of stuff that the city clerks do for all of us. They work for us basically, and there's got to be some kind of job description other than the city clerk that we just had, if you're going to put Nick in that position, because I don't think he's quite ready for that one. So I don't know if we're quite ready to say, Nick, we want you as our interim city manager is all I'm saying.
City clerk.
City clerk. I apologize for that slip of the tongue there.
Well, suppose we address the compensation in 30 days rather than 60 days.
You know, Madam Mayor, I'm better with that. I am better with that. I think he should be compensated sooner than later if we decide to go that route. But again, I'm sitting here with waffling whether I think Nick's going to be the best city clerk. I don't know. I know we need somebody, but he's already doing it. Why are we jumping in this thing? I mean, he already does what he's going to do for the next 30 days anyway. I don't know why we're trying to get this done tonight, and we have no idea how much he's worth or how much we should pay him. It just doesn't make much sense for this commission to do it without knowing some end result.
Well, as we said, we can go back and pay him for the past month or however long he'll be working.
I heard the attorney's
He will be
advice.
compensated for doing the job.
Okay. I've said my piece.
Okay. Will the acting city clerk please read the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Lister?
No.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Douthat?
Yes.
Next, we have reports and correspondence. Any reports from the city commission?
I have one. On Saturday, the 13th of May, they're going to have the household electric and chemical mobile collection. It's going to be set up at Madeira Beach Fundamental Middle School. The time is on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2, and it's free for all residents here of Pinellas County. And also, I heard that they were still looking for volunteers, if anyone would be interested. So that is this Saturday on the 13th from 9 to 2.
Anyone else? City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to bring this open into the public. I know that I've spoke to each one of you individually. I wanted to remind you that my contract expires on June the 8th of this year. I'm not asking for it to be renewed. So I will not continue on as your city attorney, except for the purposes of basically protecting you and the city during the period of time that it takes to find a replacement for me. I appreciate the opportunity. As many of you know, when I was a kid, I used to mullet fish on the seawall right behind City Hall. Madeira Beach is very important to me, and it always will be. So I did want to also tell you, besides thanking you for the opportunity to represent the city of Madeira Beach, that I am going to be providing to you with a letter of recommendation of another attorney in our law firm that is chomping at the bit for the opportunity to be able to speak to you about the possibility of taking over the position as city attorney. Her name is Erica Augello. Erica has been with the firm for a number of years. She is currently the assistant city attorney for the city of Seminole, assistant city attorney for the city of Tarpon Springs, and also for two of the Reddington municipalities here. She's also the assistant city attorney. She currently represents the Florida League of Cities on a number of pieces of litigation. And you remember our law firm represents the Florida League of Cities from about Hernando County down to Everglades City. So she has got a lot of experience in litigating matters if that is necessary. So I'm going to be providing to you her curriculum vitae, her resume, and I'm hoping that she gets the opportunity to speak to each one of you individually, and then hopefully maybe discuss the situation at a workshop meeting if that's appropriate. But in the meantime, if you decide to go another avenue, another way, I totally understand that. So I'll work with you in whatever it takes to make sure that we keep our city of Madeira Beach running in the interim while we don't have a city manager or a finance director or a planning director. So again, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Trask. The next report will be from the city manager, and since we do not have a current city manager, I'd like to address that to Chief O'Neill, who has been acting as city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that the city is operating appropriately. We've met with all the city employees and all the department heads, and just to reassure you and the commission and the community at large that city operations are still moving forward, and the city operations are still going on as prescribed. So, thank you.
Thank you for everything you've been doing. And the final report will be from our new interim city clerk.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Well, with that,
Before we adjourn, Madam Mayor,
Oh.
I'd like to address the commission, please, for just a second. I kind of made some notes here, and just want to kind of throw this out and ask the permission of the commission. I feel the commission is divided, and as everybody knows, I believe that everyone that's sitting up here loves the city, but we look at things in many different ways. I would like to ask the commission for permission to contact and work with the Florida League of Cities, the Florida Institute of Government, in order to set up a strategic planning committee for the commission with a facilitator so that we can try to work out some of our differences. I hope and pray that we can do this so we can move forward and do what's best for the city. I mean, I don't know what other way to go at this point. I think if we were sitting in a room with a facilitator, it might help us to work through some of these issues. So I'm asking your fellow commissioners permission to look into this at this point and, you know, see what we can do to try to, you know, we got to stop the infighting. We have to do what's best for the city, you know, and I don't know what other way to go and move forward with this. So I would just like to ask the commission's permission to look into this.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Okay.
Information is always good.
Then I'll try to get some information and get back to you maybe at our workshop or whenever, see when we can get together with a facilitator and try to, like I said, take us as a group forward and see what we can do. You know, we're never all going to agree on anything, you know, but maybe we can work for the best interest of the city and stop some of the fighting and bickering. So that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's an excellent idea. The meeting is adjourned at 9:51.
8:51. 8:51.
Oh, 8:51. It just felt like 9:51.